All right. We are back. Thank you all for coming back in. Thank you for coming back in. Thank you for coming back in. Give just a few more seconds for us to have our friends rejoin us. Thank you for coming back in. Thank you for coming back in. Good morning, Karen. Thank you for joining. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you all for coming back in so quickly. Because I know we were right at the top of a good point there. All right. All right. Tap those hearts if you're back in and you can hear and everything is clear and you're not breaking up. All right. It's a little bit past the 30-minute mark. So I am going to set myself a timer here so that I don't go past 25 minutes. All right. Okay, so she says there's a key word in this definition, which is opportunity, right? Those of you just coming in for part 2, we're reading from Fresh Start, and we're talking about how to get a fresh start and what a fresh start is. Amen. Thank you, Prophet. I will endeavor to do that. So the key word is the word opportunity. And she says, why do we hold on to this key word? Because I want you to embrace your sense of loss, lack, or failure as an opportunity to look in a different direction. You can't go back to the past, and you can't erase yesterday, and you can't determine what tomorrow holds, but you can look in a different direction starting now. Somebody type starting now. Starting now. You can look in a new direction starting now. I know this is about to help someone. This is going to help someone. Some of us are waiting on an external voice to start over. Someone right now, today, you're waiting on an external voice to tell you to start over. You're waiting on someone else's approval for you to start over. Your life is in shambles, and you're waiting for that one voice of a person, maybe that you admire, to look over and say, you know what? I think you should start over. I'm going to be that voice for you this morning. And I'm going to say, you know what? If you're dealing with loss, if you're dealing with lack, right? If you're dealing with failure, you need a fresh start. It is okay for you to start over. If you're looking around and your life is in shambles, it is okay for you to start over. God is not going to beat you over the head because you had to start over. How do I know that? Because Apostle Peter. Okay. What did he tell Peter? Peter, I know you're all gung-ho about how faithful you are to me. But Peter, let me tell you something. There's a level of denial of me in you that you don't even know you have. And so, Peter, I know that you have all of this outward energy, and you're boastful, and you're passionate, and you're driven about how you're going to stand for Christ. But Peter, guess what? I know you better than you know yourself. And there's a failure coming for you, Peter. There's a colossal failure coming for you, Peter. Peter, you're going to fail me not one time, not two times, but Peter, you're going to fail me 3 times. But guess what, Peter? When you fail me that 3rd time, just remember, I still want you back. And guess what, Peter? When you're converted, you'll be able to strengthen your brethren. But I just want to let you know, Peter, before it all goes down, you are going to need a fresh start. That should give somebody encouragement today. That God already knows your failures and your mess ups before you even get to them in the place of time. That God already knows how jacked up it's going to be and how it's even going to make you feel in that moment. But that he will send a word before you even get to that failure to say, Satan desires to sift you as wheat. Nevertheless, you're mine. You may mess up. You may fail. It may be a public failure. You may feel like you cannot come back from this thing. But I've already sent a word ahead of you that is going to catch you when you fail. If I had an organ, my God. Oh. See, some people, and I don't know. I was in my prayer time this morning, and I kept seeing this image of a person standing on the edge of a cliff. And now I think I understand it. But he said, some people will let you get to the edge of the cliff and they will push you off. But God will let you get to the edge of the cliff and he will catch you before you fall. Somebody just needs to take a deep breath. You need a fresh start. And it's okay. It's okay to need a fresh start. Exhale. Receive a fresh start today. Let the Spirit of God breathe on you today. You can't go back to the past. You can't erase yesterday. You can't determine what tomorrow holds, but you can look in a different direction starting right now. You can seize what appears as a negative demise to journey forward. Is this even possible, you may ask? With all of my heart, I believe it is. It will require some time mixed with your participation, but it is possible and worth pursuing. You can find your way. Could you use a fresh start in your finances, your career, your business, your marriage, your relationships, your family, your habits, your health, or your faith? We were sharing in the Word yesterday with very well-known pastor in the Baltimore, Maryland area, Pastor John Jenkins, and he was talking about his fresh start in his health. And he was talking about how I think he had lost 15 or 20 pounds, and he began to talk about the fact that when he went to his doctor, he said that the doctor gave him instructions on how to get a fresh start, right, with his health. And that he had been diabetic. And then he said, when the doctor explained to him what things he could not eat, he said all the things he loved to eat were on the cannot side. And all the things he hated to eat were on the what he could eat side. Which meant that he had to make an active choice to participate in his health and his healing in order to get a fresh start. And as he began to do that, he began to drop the weight And I think he said, his blood pressure and all, like his, different medical vitals were down to the lowest point they had been in decades because he chose a fresh start. It was a choice. Now, had he kept going in the same direction as eating all the foods that he loved but were bad for him, he wouldn't have been able to stand up and be an example to all of the many thousands of people that he influences every week and serves. So sometimes you have got to find your way, and sometimes that takes receiving counsel that you don't want to hear. Lord, help me today. Sometimes your fresh start is going to come from counsel you may not want to hear. Sometimes your fresh start is not going to come from your friends. It wasn't Pastor Jenkins' friend that was giving him this advice, right? It was someone who was an expert in their field. Sometimes God will send you an expert in your loss. This is another download from the Spirit of God. Sometimes God will send you someone who is an expert in your loss, an expert in what you have lacked in, an expert in what you have failed in. And why do I call them an expert? Because they once experienced the loss there too. They once experienced the lack there too. They once experienced, as she says, the failure there too. But they have managed to overcome it. So now they're an expert in the area in which you're still suffering the lack or the failure in. And so they may not look like you. They may not talk like you. They may not be the same racial makeup as you. But are you willing to listen to that expert so that you too can overcome in that particular area? Or are you just going to say, no thanks, I've got it from here, I can take it from here? So we have to be on the lookout for who is God releasing in our life that specializes in the very areas that we need a fresh start in. So in a variety of ways, the question how has always shown up in how can I find my way with men or women, right? So here are a few of those questions that show up. How do you make a fresh start after the loss of a loved one through a death? Where do you begin if you've gone through an ordeal of a divorce? What do you need to start a new career or leave a stagnant job? What exactly do you need to overcome debilitating debt? How do you cope with the loneliness that may plague you night and day? How do you overcome bad habits that keep limiting your potential and your success? Is it possible to lose that much weight? What do you do when you feel stuck in an unproductive relationship? What do you do when it appears you are too late to do life in the way that you had always dreamed? Is it even possible to make a fresh start? If you feel stuck right now, and if you feel like you've reached the end of your road and you don't know what to do, you can find your way. It starts with your dream life. It starts with your thought life. It starts with your mindset for a better destination. All right. And so it is time to look in a different direction, but this time with hope, and hope for a different outcome. All right. So we know there's no instant formula. We've already talked about that. There's no shortcut. There's no quick fix to the challenges that we face in life. And nobody has perfect answers, because what may be the answer for me may not be the answer for you in your life's journey, right? But her book, what it does do is it gives you an effective guide for steps to consider on your journey. And I want to share those 5 steps with you as we close out today with her book and move on to Hope on a Tightrope. Step number 1, and you can write these down. Step number 1, a fresh start begins with clarity. Clarity. So number 1 is clarity. Where am I? It is important to be honest with yourself. It is important to be realistic with yourself to be able to answer that question. Do you have clarity on where you are right now? Where am I right now? Where are my life choices leading me right now? Number 2, choice. A fresh start anchors on choice. Where am I? Clarity. Choice. What do I need to do? Number 3 is counsel. A fresh start thrives with counsel. What do I need to know? Am I surrounding myself with people who can help me with what I need to know in order to move forward? If I don't have a good support group, am I able to find out what I need to know, even if I don't have necessarily a whole group of people around me, right? We're living in the information age where I can find out some of the counsel that I need, even if I don't have physical mentors in front of me. Physical mentors would be ideal, but in some things, if you can't find that physical mentor, you might have to utilize a faraway mentor, okay? Or an online mentor. Number 4, commitment. A fresh start progresses with commitment. What will it take? And number 5, completion. A fresh start matures on completion. Who will I become? So, where am I? What do I need to do? What do I need to know? What will it take? And who will I become? So, there is, if you like to check out her Fresh Start community, it is freshstartjourney.com, freshstartjourney.com, and there is a community there of people who are going on this journey of a fresh start. So I encourage you, if you are needing that fresh start, if you want to start the process, if you're looking for a good book that kind of takes you step by step with some principles to get you started on a fresh journey, I would highly recommend Fresh Start for you today. As we close, we only have 7 minutes. So I am definitely going to come back to this book next week as we dig into family. But I do want to read one of the things he talks about here, talking about family. He has so many points, but I know I'm not going to get to them all today. All right, let me read this section to you, and then I'll say what I want to say. He says, when I was growing up, we were targeted for love and people cared for us. Get to all of them. No, this is a long section, so I want to take my time in it. I may come back and do a evening broadcast because I really want to dig into family. I really love my family, but I'll get into my feelings about the love I have for my family at another time. But he says, when I was growing up, we were targeted for love and people cared for us. Wow. They were concerned about us. Folk in the church would give you generous portions of wisdom, most often unsolicited. Everybody has 2 or 3 church mothers they know in their life that has given them some unsolicited wisdom. Amen. And you may not have appreciated it at the time, but you can now look back and you can say, you know what? It was unsolicited wisdom, but she or he, that deacon or elder in the church, was sure right about it, right? And so folk in the little league or in the beauty salon, they just kept dropping all these different pearls that you didn't even realize were wisdom until you strung them together in a moment of crisis. Yes. Yes, there was a mother in the church that I first came under in college, and her name was Mother Freeman. And she was just the sweetest woman you would ever want to meet. Always dropping wisdom. Always dropping wisdom. Another gentleman, his name was Elder Auber. I think he's actually still living. Always dropping wisdom. Always being kind to the young people. Always encouraging us. And so you have these people that were just in their normal conversation, they would drop so much wisdom that later in life, you wouldn't realize that you had gained that wisdom until, as he says, you started stringing them together in a moment of crisis. Young brothers and sisters today have no sense of the signs, signals, clues, and cues needed to negotiate and navigate the treacherous terrain of American society. It's not just how you dress. It's in language, it's in nuance, it's in tone, it's in judgment and timing. All those things you learn in your family, you don't learn them in a book. You have to learn them by spending time around other folk who've had to negotiate and navigate on that same terrain for a long time. That's partly what I mean by the young folk not being loved right and not getting enough care and attention. So let's love the people that are around us. Let's love on the young people that are around us. Let's not just pass them by every single Sunday and just assume that they're doing well. Let's make sure that we are imparting words of peace and words of strength and words of power into them every opportunity that we have, because he is very right. American society is treacherous. And so if you are not imparting into them positivity, they're going out Monday through Friday facing a world that is treacherous. They really are. And unfortunately, some young people don't have any adult or any young adult speaking positivity into their life. So if all they're listening to and all they're hearing is negativity, 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 then that's what they begin to live out of. All right? So we learned this in one of our education courses. They call it stacking the odds or stacking the chips. And the way that they expressed it was like a set of poker chips. And they said most children, when they go out into the world, they maybe have 1 or 2 poker chips every single day. And usually by the time that they get home, something negative has occurred in their on the way to school, in the classroom, with an administrator or whatever, that has already stripped them of those chips. So the goal is to load up a child with enough encouragement, enough life, enough chips, so that when life happens during their day, or when they encounter things that are negative, that is constantly taking chips from them, that they still have enough to last them throughout the day, that it's not every single day chipping away at who they are, or every single day chipping away at their esteem. And unfortunately, we live in a society where some kids, every morning they wake up on the negative. Every morning they're waking up on the deficit side. And more things are putting them in the deficit. This is why you can have a 7, 8-year-old child try to commit suicide, you have to go back and you have to say, how many deficits does this child have in their life that made them get to the point where they didn't think life was worth living in their 7 and 8 years old? All right. So think about that in terms of what you're sowing into the young people around you. Lastly, he says this for today, because it's 12 o'clock. So that means I'm going to go over time a little bit. He says, I try to uplift young people by introducing them to historic individuals who have displayed courage in its highest form. People like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Rabbi Abraham Herschel, Michael Harrington, Ida B. Wells Barnett, and other freedom fighters. Then I asked them how many of their parents and brothers and sisters in some way extend this kind of tradition. I asked them, what's going to happen to this tradition? Are you going to be a part of the tradition of freedom fighting? How can we keep it vital, vibrant, and alive? Then he says this, and I really had to say law on this because he said, parenting is the ultimate non-market activity in a market-driven society. And then I really had to put this in parentheses. Parenting used to be the ultimate non-market activity in a market-driven society. And why do I say used to be? Because I'm probably about to hurt somebody's feelings right now. So let me just prepare you. All right. Parenting used to be the ultimate non-market activity in a market-driven society. But these days, people are having children so they could treat them as a product. If you can't say amen, just say ouch. Children used to be seen as a blessing of the Lord, not as a tax deduction, not as a dollar sign, but with the advent of, how can I put it, a little less than human trafficking, but with the advent of things like, and I'm quite sure most of you have seen this show, Honey Boo Boo, we have now taken something that should have been a non-market activity like parenting, like the show 16 and Pregnant. Parenting, something that should have been a non-market activity, is now a market-driven activity. I'm going to have X amount of children because I want to benefit from a government system. At one point, we had people free, little big shots. At one point, we had people freezing certain goods from men so they could get themselves pregnant later and ask for child support. I don't know if that's still going on, but it was going on for a while, where young women were dating these celebrity guys or these athletes, and they were holding on to the man's reproductive juices, because I don't know who's watching. Who they were hanging on to their reproductive juices and freezing it so that they could later impregnate themselves, so that they could cash in on parenting. You have some people, their children are not even going to know what privacy actually means or looks like, because from every step of the way of conception. They have allowed cameras, right, to be on their entire process. And so I look at some of these pictures of these children who have been being photographed since they were inside the womb down to the sonogram. And some of these kids, some of these children are rebelling against being in the public eye. And the parents can't see it because they've had their children in the public eye for so long. But you're going to wind up with a child that hates any kind of public anything because of the way that you're raising them to be in the public eye. So whereas your parents didn't snap 25 pictures of you in the bathtub, okay, and post it online, right? We are creating a society of children who only see themselves as being their parents' commodity. And I don't think that we are really evaluating what we're doing to children, even if we mean well as the parent. So when your child turns around and says, okay, you want to take a picture of me at the playground so you can put it on your Instagram? I need $5 for that shot. When your child does that to you, you have created a commercialized, market-driven child. You are teaching your child that their existence, that their importance is attached to money, that their existence is attached to the public eye. That's what you're teaching them. Even though you may not recognize that's what you're doing, you are in fact sowing into this spirit of capitalism that everything must have a price to it. So if you treat your child like a commodity, be careful that they don't turn around and start selling themselves when they can get a better price. And on that note, this has been Daring Dialogues. Exactly. If your love towards them comes with, oh, I just want to take this little picture of you, little Mikey or little Susie, and if you take this picture for mommy will give you a lollipop if you pose correctly. You better watch what seeds you are sowing as a parent. I'm telling you, I'm seeing it and I'm watching it and I'm looking like, Lord, they don't realize that they're teaching their children to sell themselves to the highest bidder. So I hope that you got something out of today's lesson. It is Monday Motivation. I hope I gave you some things to think about. I hope you're thinking about your fresh start. I hope that you are thinking about your family. I hope that as a parent, I hope you're considering what I have said today. And if you are involved in the life of young adults, I hope that you are sowing life into them and that it doesn't cost, right? I hope that you're sowing encouragement into them and that it is sincere encouragement, that it's not predicated on anything, but simply expressing to them the value of who they are as a living, breathing soul that God loves and God cares about. So this has been Daring Dialogues for today. Thank you all for joining in. I hope that you have a great and wonderful rest of this day. And we will be back tomorrow. We will be back with Teachable Tuesday And I believe I am going to continue into a little bit about family. But tomorrow we're also going to be dealing with singleness and kissing, dating goodbye. Uh-oh. I know I just said, I know. But we're going to talk about kissing, dating goodbye, saying no to dating. I know it's a totally opposite word of what the Christian church is telling people today. I know. I get it. But we're going to talk about kissing, dating goodbye, what that might look like, why you might want to kiss dating goodbye, what possible benefits could it be to kissing, dating goodbye. And so we'll talk about that tomorrow. So invite the singles that you know to join us. I know the conversation is probably going to get a little heated, and that's okay. But we like to give people a different perspective than just the consensus, right? Else it would not be a daring dialogue. Until tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, take care and God bless.